This is Cheyenne and Shakoya with another Psychological and Brain Sciences Department podcast. Today we are here with Dr. Schlegel, a personality and social professor here at Texas A&M.
What classes do you teach?
I teach, there's two undergraduate classes that I teach regularly. I teach intro psychology, and then I teach the intro statistics class for psychology majors. And then I teach two graduate classes regularly. I teach one on the self, and then I teach one on research methods, which I'm teaching right now.
So how would you describe your teaching style, and how would you maybe differentiate it between like undergrads and graduates? Like, is there a difference way that you teach?
Oh yeah, it's very different. I would say, yeah, especially because I normally teach large undergraduate classes, and so it is a lot more lecturing, though I try to make it as active as possible, which is probably my main teaching style, is to try not to lecture the whole time, but certainly in a large class you kind of have to lecture some of the time. A graduate class is for me, almost always purely discussion based. So usually everyone's read the same 3, 4, 5 things, and then we discuss them for pretty much the entirety of the time, and there's little to no lecturing. And an undergraduate class, like I said, I think my main goal is really try to make the class as active as possible. And so as an example, when I teach stats, I really try to, draw on the whiteboard, have other people draw on the whiteboard. We try to solve problems together, and we really try to do the thing, not just talk about the thing. Intro psychology is a little bit different because you don't have, problems to work on. But I try to bring in as much discussion as possible. We try to do videos, we try to do activities. But I'm sure you guys have been in these 215% classes. It's a little bit different, a little bit different vibe. But I try to do that as much as possible. And then otherwise I just try to make it exciting, I guess. Both those classes are things that I love. As the finance president, I love psychology. I'm a psychology faculty member. So I really want other people to see why I think psychology is so great. And then I was a kind of a math phobic person myself. I thought I would hate statistics, and now I found out that I love it, I teach it, and so I really try to help people get over their own phobias as much as possible, and try to see why it's fun. It really can be fun. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what would you say your philosophy of teaching is?
Oh yeah, I probably already answered that question too much, didn't I? But anything extra. Yeah, otherwise, is just try to gain, try to plant a seed for some excitement. Try to make it active. Try to also give, I think another thing that I recognize is that, when you leave either of those classes, you're not necessarily going to remember the specific details, right? So my goal is to try to get some broad strokes that hopefully people can take with them. And also, some excitement, some resources, things that they could go back to if they, need anything from that class again. But most excitedly, kind of introduce the concepts, try to get people excited about it. And give them some skills they can take with them. So in my intro psych class, we do a lot of things that you could use for your well-being, right? We talk about and things like that. Or in my stats class, then you're learning a skill very naturally there. But I try to do that in my intro class too, or try to talk about critical thinking, things like that. So it's also skill building as much as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit more about your teaching experiences?
Sure. Yeah. I started teaching when I was in graduate school. I taught the methods class when I was in graduate school, and then came here, and I've been teaching obviously since I got here. We normally teach 3 classes a year, all of us, and so I love teaching, so I really enjoy teaching those 3 classes every year. It's one of my favorites, my job. So yeah, and I teach about those same classes all the time, but what was I going to say? Oh, this methods class I'm teaching in the graduate level is the first time I've ever taught that, so I've also tried to sprinkle in new classes when they're available. Yeah.
If you could teach any course you wanted, what would it be and why?
Oh,
out of your 3, maybe.
Yeah. I really love the classes that I teach right now. Interestingly, just because of the way things have worked out with the schedule, I haven't been able to teach intro social psychology, which, is obviously part of my passion as a social psychologist. So that sure would be fun if I could work that out sometime. And then, 2 of the other faculty members in the department that are we run our lab together, sort of existential psychology collaboratory. So Dr. Matt Vess teaches a class on the self, and then Dr. Josh Hicks teaches a class on existential psychology. And I would love to steal any of their classes anytime, because those are my favorite things too. So it'll be fun to teach those too.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about your research interests?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we run this shared lab, 3 of us, and we're interested in existential psychology. So that means we're interested in how people approach the really big questions in life. So what does it mean to be authentic? What does it mean to know yourself? Why is it important to know yourself? What is life? The meaning of life? How do people think about what life means and find meaning in their lives? And so we do a lot of different kind of interrelated things that center on those big questions, kind of about existence. What does it mean to be a human, and what is the best way to be a human and to kind of live a fulfilling life?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That sounds really interesting.
I think so. Yeah.
So tell us how your research has influenced your teaching. In what ways have you been able to bring the insights of your research to your courses at the undergraduate level?
Yeah, so one thing that I'm really excited about is something that we've started doing in my intro psych class last semester, and this was in collaboration with other faculty members in the department too, and in particular with Dr. Mary Mahar. And so like I mentioned, and so in the intro class, I had these series of kind of outside class activities. They were application activities, and they were basically applying principles from the science of resilience and well-being and existential psychology to your life. So we did like a unit on mindfulness, we did a unit on sleep, we did a unit on authenticity. And so that really took things that my research is about and put them into the intro psych classroom in a way to try to enhance well-being and enhance resilience. And so that's something that I'm really excited about. We did it for the first time last fall. I'm teaching it again in the fall, and so I'm looking forward to doing that again. So that's one very explicit example where we took things that we know from the work and like having people apply it to their own lives. And so that's really fun for me. And Kona is probably the most direct thing that you can see there. In my statistics class, though, I certainly try to bring in examples from my research and talk about what it's like to actually be a researcher. Try to, as best as you can in a classroom, try to give the experience, behind the scenes. This is what it's like in the day of the life of a psychological scientist. And so I think in both my classes, really there's a blend of research and teaching in a way that's fun. Yeah, for me. Yeah.
Are you able to incorporate your research a little bit more in your graduate classes? Do you find it easier to do that?
Really both in different ways, so I like actually the challenge of thinking about how to do it in the undergraduate context is like a little bit different than what we do in a normal. So, in a graduate class, it's a little bit more like having a lab meeting. It's kind of a little bit more similar to what we do all the time, which is reading articles and talking about them and talking about the research. What I think is fun is to kind of take that step back and say, okay, now for people who aren't doing this full time every day, what can we learn from this and how can we apply it to people's everyday lives or, skills that they can take with them and things like that. And so they're both, the mesh is there in different ways. And I actually kind of like it's fun to do the undergrad one because it is more different than just doing research itself. So teaching a grad class is starting to be almost similar to doing research. I mean, the link there is just so strong that it's easy in some ways. So kind of like the challenge of doing undergrad classes. Yeah.
So how do you involve graduate students or undergraduate students in your research?
Yeah, so basically my research couldn't exist without my students. I am completely dependent on my students. In our lab, like I mentioned, there's actually 3 faculty members, and then, right now I think we have 6 graduate students, and then across we probably have 50 undergraduate students in our lab or something like that across all 3 of us. And we get together for lab meetings to talk. We have one this afternoon, in fact. So I like every other week we get the grad students and the undergrad students together for a lab meeting to talk about different things. Sometimes we talk about movies that are related to the topics that we're interested in. today the grad students are going to practice giving their brown bag presentations to the undergrads, and so then that's kind of like a cool dynamic. They get to see what that's like, and then the grad students get to hear feedback from the undergrads about whether what they're saying makes sense to an audience outside of our little insular group. So that's really good and really nice. And then my students are entirely in charge of the daily operations of the lab, collecting data and keeping the lab running, and I'm so thankful to them. And then we really try to, in our lab, we have different tracks for our undergraduate RAs. So a lot of them are shadowing grad students on particular projects, and so and then depending on what level they pick, they either write a paper with the grad students, or they do a presentation in our lab meeting about the project, or both. A lot of them are doing the undergraduate research scholar, so they're doing a thesis through that program and presenting at Student Research Week. And so, yeah, we really try to get everyone as involved as we can, kind of like in a big synergistic, ball. And in our lab, we collect a lot of data because we run a lot of subjects in the subject pool, and so that takes a lot of people power. And so I have a lot of people, and then I'm on a grant that collects data at an elementary school, so I have a lot of undergraduates working with me on that project as well, and so those students are going out to the school and actually helping run the intervention, and then also entering data and coding videos and doing all kinds of different things. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So they, really cool. Yeah, and I truly could not function without them. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Schlegel. We will be back soon with another interesting insight into the faculty of the Psychological and Brain Sciences Department.